degrees.
We're going to get the meeting started. Welcome to the Public Safety Building Committee meeting. And of course, the one thing I don't have is the date. What is the date today? The 7th of June. And since Colleen is not here tonight, I'll be the master of ceremonies for this evening. And as instructed, I've got to read this. This meeting is being recorded for cablecast and YouTube presentation by Area 58 Community Access Media. The video of this meeting is not to be considered an official public record. So there we go. Now we can get going. Couple things on our agenda tonight. We'll do the minutes, but I'm actually going to ask to hold those to the end. We can work with the other stuff first. We have three things that are particularly important for us to go through tonight. One is the amendment for P3, the amendment for context architecture, which is Donovan Sweeney, but they went through a name change between when we've hired him and where we are today, so that's why there's a different name for those out in the public. And then we also want to talk about doing the topographical survey and provide recommendations on all three of these things to the selectmen for Monday night, the topographical survey for the 5 acres. And I've had a bit of back and forth today about that, so we can get into that too. Dan Pallotta couldn't be here tonight. He had to attend a town meeting, just like he had to do for us a month or so ago. We have Rob Tedisco on the phone to help walk us through these items tonight. So maybe we should start, Rob, if it's good with you, maybe we start with the P3 amendment and
Sure.
Just walk through from there?
Yep. So we talked about this the last time we met, a couple weeks back, and wanted to make a revision. Is everyone looking at this right now? Does everyone have a handout?
I read it.
Yeah, we
Not yet.
haven't enough. Do you have it? Yeah,
Okay.
It's right there. It's this.
This is
Okay.
it? Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
with,
So I won't
Yes,
recap the
okay.
services for each
That's
phase,
just the,
but so what we proposed with the latest on the cover sheet here is just the construction documents phase, bidding, construction administration, project closeout. So we're proposing here a total amendment value of $165,000 plus the $19,000 that we've already been hired for. So that will bring the new contract total to $184,000. So what this does not reflect is the kind of uncertainty as to whether or not the committee wants to use, an in-house clerk of the works once we get to construction. So right now, the way that this reads, $129,500 for construction administration. This shows that P3's contract will include those clerk of the works services. So just because we're uncertain right now, what we could do two things. Unless the committee has issues about other costs here or other questions about the phases, we can either, the committee can agree to this entire cost, $165,000, amendment number 1. And when it comes time to construction, if the committee decides to go in a different direction, we can do another amendment to, provide a credit back to the town for whatever those services are worth. Or if we don't want to decide tonight, we can approve this as amended and just say P3 contract to proceed with construction documents and bidding. So just a $25,000 phase for CDs and $6,500 for bidding. And then when we get to construction, after bidding, we can then decide how we want to proceed. So it's really up to the committee tonight. Either way, it sounds like we'll have to make an adjustment when we get to that phase. We'll have to make a decision then. So we can either just vote the whole thing now. If we get to that point, we'll either provide a credit or we can make another vote at that time to increase the contract again. So, John, whatever you think is cleaner or whatever you think is better.
I guess first, do folks have comments on that?
So the 184,000, that would include the clerk, the cost for the
Yes.
clerk? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
The estimated cost of the clerk is 129.
Yes.
I think that's I don't know if, Rob, is 129,000.
Not all of it. It's other
That's
stuff.
the clerk and the other aspects of P3's responsibility,
That's
correct?
everything. Yep. This
Okay.
165 is everything. You're getting
But
They're in the works.
the specific line item for construction administration, the clerk of the works is not the full 129, right? It's a chunk of that? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
74.
Yeah, I think it was 74 that was,
74 grand.
Yeah. It'll be a majority of it.
And
Yeah.
these numbers, as I recall, jive with the original cost estimate Dan gave us to bring to town meeting, right?
They do. So the appropriation budget that we used and presented at town meeting, this 184,000 matches that budget.
And we
So
haven't really had the
19,000
chance
for
to-
schematic design, which we've already, we've completed, and then the balance will bring us to 184,000.
We haven't really had the chance to sit and discuss clerks, hiring a clerk, or whether we want to use P3 or go outside. I mean, have we made a decision on that, or can we do that afterwards?
Well, I think what Rob is proposing is that we could do that afterwards, and, because no, I don't think we have had that discussion.
yeah.
And, we could even, approve a we're really approving a recommendation to the selectmen
Yeah.
to amend the contract, for an additional, up to perhaps an additional 165,000, not to exceed that, which would give room to be able to come back and talk about that later, or we can just, approve a recommendation again to just do the next two items on there. I don't think it matters too much how we do that. And yeah, I mean, we do have to have that discussion.
Yeah, I think my opinion would be that we go with the next two, the construction documents and the bidding, and then once we've had a chance to talk about a clerk, which we're not prepared to, we haven't talked about it, as John just said, then we come back and do another amended P3, and we go from there. But right now, we don't know.
Do we need to advertise that again?
No, because it's an amendment to the existing contract, we don't have to advertise for either the architect or the
Correct.
APM.
And if we use them for the clerk of the works, for them to make it their issue to just deal with it all, again, it's all part of that same initial
Yep.
contract.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
So we would want to make a decision. It would be helpful to P3.
Yep.
The committee doesn't need to decide tonight or this month, but it would be good for us to know once we start to get to the end of construction documents or halfway through
Yeah.
to get a sense of which direction the committee wants to take. Because we're going to want to know in advance so that we have we prepare the proper staff member to kind of gear up and so we can work on our scheduling internally and prepare someone for the project should you go in that direction.
That makes sense.
So why don't we do this? We will, make a recommendation, for the selectmen to approve an amendment to the existing contract, for $31,500 for construction documents and bidding.
Okay?
So, since I said all that, I guess
I'll second the motion.
I'll make the motion and you can second it. And then what I would suggest is maybe when we get through all this stuff, we can start our conversation, not to
Yeah.
decide tonight, but at least to have an initial
Get some idea.
conversation while we have the time. And then we can follow it up at a future meeting when Colleen's here and has an opportunity as well to talk to it.
Does P3, would they give us a list of people they recommend, or people they have in-house?
Oh, yeah.
They're recommending.
They'll have
in-house
in-house
clerk.
people.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so I guess we gotta moved and seconded, all in favor,
Aye.
opposed?
Okay,
Unanimous.
great. Okay, so one down, two to go. I did just have one question, and it doesn't matter so much for that, but just generally between P3 and context, in looking through the contract, where does it come in there for if we have to go before the planning board and, that Board of Health and all sorts of other things there?
Yep.
They're miserable.
Is that, who does that with us, or is that just up to the committee to do? Is that the architect, or is that P3, or is that both, or?
P3 will absolutely be to all of those meetings. The
Okay.
architect,
We don't necessarily need that, right?
In context statement, under, they would do it for extra.
For extra money, right,
Just to meet.
right.
My experience has always been the OPM.
Right.
that Took the lead on that.
Okay. Okay, so that was just one that had sort of, I didn't see it specifically there, so I figured I would ask. I mean, that's what I thought, because we had talked about it before, so that's fine. So now moving on to context, did you want to give a little overview of that? I think we've all taken a look at it. but-
Yep. So similar to our proposal, they're just outlining each phase here. So construction documents for the next 12 weeks. Just so everyone has a summary. So Context submitted a proposal for services moving forward to us a few weeks back. And in that time between the last meeting and this meeting, we've been kind of going back and forth with Jeff on his structure, on how he did this. So we asked him to make some reductions. We further researched what their fee really should be for a building of this type, given its nature. It's not complex, it's new construction. So we asked them to kind of back off on the fee a little bit. And the appropriation budget allowed for $380,000 total design services. And we got them to reduce that. I think by about $20,000 we got them to take it down. So their total amendment is $290,000 plus the original $70,000 contract. So so we saved about 20 grand there. So what they did to get it down is they jumped right into what we're calling construction documents phase. And what they had beforehand, they referred to as design development phase, which most traditionally comes after schematic design and before construction documents. So they're really not cutting a corner here. What it really means is that while they're putting together the details of this building, framing details, picking out materials with the committees, what's the flooring going to be, that's all going to be happening at the same time while they're putting these drawings together. So what design development would have been if we had had this as a separate phase, they would have taken probably the next 5 weeks or so to just talk about high-level design choices like HVAC, exterior finishes and things like that. So they're going to try and compress it, work together. So while they're producing these documents, of course, having the committee's approval to pick certain systems, they're just going to have to do these things at the same time. So we saved them some time. They took out some money. So this will be a little bit more productive. I mean, obviously, it saves us $20,000. It's just kind of unnecessary costs for a building of this type. Bidding, they're carrying 6 weeks. That sounds right to us. They're going to be coordinating and responding to a bunch of questions that may or may not come through from potential bidders. We're going to do site walks. Jeff will be there on the site walk to host it with us, walk them through the site. Contractors will put in writing and ask them a bunch of questions about their design and their details and say, this doesn't work with that, or what do you think about this material? And they're going to have to respond to all these questions and concerns officially through contract addendums. And construction administration for them is much different than it is for P3. They don't do, they're not in the field as much as we would or your clerk would be. They come out once a week. They'll attend the meetings with us. They'll take notes. And what they'll be most busy with during construction administration is processing and improving the material submittals that come through the contractor. So the contractor's going to have to submit what he's going to buy for the building in terms of, what types of doors, the paints, the roof types, the warranties, the HVAC, the fittings, everything underground, every single thing that has to do with that building, the architect has to approve ahead of time before purchasing. So that's quite a process, and that's what's going to keep Jeff busy through construction for what they're saying about 9 months or so, which we agree with. And then closeout, which they don't specifically identify, they just kind of compress it along with construction administration. They're going to be, verifying warranty documents, O&M, maintenance and materials manuals that come through at the end of the job. They'll help us collect those. We'll make sure that you guys are educated on the building with the systems and how the lighting works and anything and everything that goes with those types of systems. So we're happy with this fee. We're glad that they came down a little bit. We thought they were a little too strong for a building of this simplicity. So right now they've got a total proposal of $290,000 that we recommend we move forward with.
Yeah, it's not a difficult building.
No, not at all.
I think the site, because of the nature of where the gas is, the electric that we have out in front of the building, there's other issues that are gonna require more of their attention. Is there anything that we can give them that we might have for as-built and whatnot now to,
So that, I was gonna mention this when we get to the Webby engineering piece, but Webby provided us an as-built, or I don't know if it's an as-built or a design document. It's probably an as-built, but of the existing septic system on that property right now. We're probably gonna have to go into Webby's office this week or next to try and get a better look at the drawings that they have, because the ones that they sent us, we could barely read them. I don't know if they have a bad scanner or the document's just too old, but they've sent us some information that will be helpful. But we're going to have to do a better job at getting more legible drawings from them. But they
Rob?
seem willing to help.
Rob?
Yep.
This is Art Moran. We do have a copy of the septic plan in the Board of Health, and
Yep.
it's an old, they are a little difficult to read. It's the old technology.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether they even have it on, they had to make a PDF of the thing, or, but it's a blueprint,
Right.
so, which,
well, it wasn't that long ago, so it shouldn't be too.
Okay.
20,
it was, 1998 or 99.
Yeah.
Anything we have will certainly help, especially with existing inverts on that system, so that we don't have to kind of put in assumptions in the drawings. But we're gonna get through all this stuff. Utilities in the street, the gas line. We're gonna have to do some homework on that stuff, but we're just not there yet. But I'm definitely working with Webby. Webby seems totally on board. They've given us a good price to do some extra survey work. They were happy to send us the septic drawings that they've got. So there's definitely going to be some information that'll help Jeff move forward.
okay. Any other comments about the proposal from
The
Context?
That's one of my questions. Under services not included, the Context has listed record drawings and as-bills. That was always, in my opinion, the architect's responsibility.
Rob, on that's the first line under services not included, existing condition documentation, record drawings, and as-built. Are they referring to the existing conditions documentations and as-built, or is that as-built for the new
New
building?
construction.
So the as-built will be provided by the general contractor. All his sub-trades will provide those. You'll get the as-built drawing on the the building, the foundation, the location of it from the contractor. So what this most likely refers to is the existing conditions documentation, which would be your survey. So those typically don't fall under the architect's scope of work. Just like we're hiring Webby Engineering independent from Jeff. Those are the types of things that he's referring to here.
But the as-bills from the contractors and the subs would be through Context, though. They would do a review before we saw them, wouldn't
Yeah.
they?
Yep. They'll go through them. Jeff will okay it, and then you guys
Okay.
will get it for record. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The LEED certification, who and how do we achieve that? Who would do it, and how do we go about achieving it for
That's
the project?
I'll speak to this a little bit, Rob.
Sure.
To get LEED certified, there's more of a capital outlay in the beginning.
Oh.
And the payback for a building this small is probably not worth the overall
Yeah.
certification. Does that sound familiar, Rob?
Yeah, it does. Because it's not, everyone always wants to talk about solar panels and things like that, but we don't have a lot of roof area, and it's a small building. This building will, if we don't officially go for LEED, it's going to probably get LEED certification on paper anyway, because the stretch energy codes now are so, they get more and more stringent every year. So even if we don't pursue an official LEED plaque, the building is going to be energy efficient, no doubt. But they certainly didn't carry the pursuit of LEED here because it is an additional cost. You do have savings with systems over time, there's tax credits, but to hire someone to help with the design and pursue LEED, it does come with a cost, an upfront cost. I don't know what that would be for a building of this size, but it would, it could be in the tens of thousands for extra design services.
Yeah, the payback, we're probably gonna be 75-80% of the way to LEED, just building it to code now. So
Yep.
paying those extra $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to get that extra 20% may not be worth doing.
Won't get it back.
Probably not,
We're
yeah.
not gonna see it. It's the same thing with solar panels. There's no rebate or tax credit program for municipalities. So
Yep.
solar panels on this building would be totally funded by Plimpton. There's no state credit. There might be a couple little grants here and there, but not like for homeowners.
And we did talk with Jeff before, if you remember, that, we would want to make sure that the building was designed to accommodate them.
Yeah.
If
no,
it's something down the road, and he agreed to that,
Yep,
but
in the
we'll,
plans, he specs a solar-ready roof.
right, so that it's something that we could always do if we decided, one, we wanted to do it, or the technology changes, so you're getting a lot more power per, square foot of panel. That's the key. You want to just make sure you're ready for the stuff later if it is.
Absolutely.
We're on a tight budget here, so.
Yeah, we can design the roof so that it has the structural capacity, and we can put in the conduits, which is not inexpensive.
Are we gonna turn the building and face it south, or are we just gonna kind of go with where we're,
I think we're gonna go with where we're siting it, because
Yeah.
the siting is gonna override if we were designing it for solar, then we would,
Right.
optimize the
Right.
layout, the exposure, but I think we're optimizing it for dollars.
But we'll have to see too, now that we have the additional piece of land, and we're gonna look at how we site it, and the septic, where the septic is sitting, and all of that, it might turn on its own, but we'll just have to see.
It also might be more bang for the buck to do a ground-mounted solar system instead of putting it on a roof
Yeah.
and tying
It's
it
true,
in.
too.
Right.
The maintenance and the insurance costs are gonna be a lot less doing the ground-mounted system now that we have that acreage. That if there's a clearing out there,
Right,
we could easily do that,
so,
get an optimal exposure.
okay.
put one of those solar flowers?
We could put it
Materials
on the
just-
cell phone tower. Next to the trailer.
Perfect.
Materials and testings, we'd have to put that out to bid, right?
Did you hear that, Rob? Materials and testings?
Say that again?
Materials and testings, does that go out to bid?
For a project of this size, no, it would not have to go out to bid. We would solicit a couple of proposals through fair, business practices to get good testing rates for, concrete,
Yep.
soils compaction, rebar inspections, things like that. But because the building is, it's a small enough project where we'll probably get all the testing done for, probably $5,000.
And with the Municipal Modernization Act, that's adjusted the limits. The limits are higher.
Yeah.
So it's no longer five, I think it's, instead of $5,000, it's $10,000, and then the next one's not 25, it's 30 or 40. Everything's kind of
Yeah.
moved,
Yeah.
so there's a little more room.
I don't
Yep.
think we'd need anything much beyond concrete and soils, would we?
No.
I mean, rebar, that's our clerk.
Well,
I mean, they should be able to-
the clerk would not provide, they'll have eyes and ears on it, but they won't provide a specific inspections report. The point of the testing agency is because it's entirely independent. You can have the engineers, sometimes the engineers only like to come out when there's a real problem, but sometimes the structural engineer will come out and do a visual inspection of the rebar
That's all I'm
placement.
thinking about, is just a visual inspection, to make sure the
Yeah.
rebar is where it's supposed to be.
Yeah. But to have a testing agency
They
come
come
out
out
and
at night,
inspect the rebar, you're
8 in the
talking,
morning, they go in at night.
could be $150.
Yeah.
So, and they'll do a slump test on the concrete when it shows up on site, make sure it's to the spec. And like I said, soils compaction or if there's a unique soil condition there, they can help monitor how that's going in the ground. It's, in partnership with the clerk. So it's an extra set of eyes and not a great deal of money. But I think for this project, you're probably looking at $5,000 worth of testing services.
Any other comments, questions on context?
And the site testing, the core samples, when does that get done? Is that part of the testing
No.
fee?
No, that would be,
No.
that's
That's gotta be
something
up
that we,
front.
yeah, in Dan's budget, he has a line item for the geotech and a few
Yep.
other things.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion for context
Yeah,
to,
I'll move that we accept it as written.
and make the recommendation to the Board of Selectmen?
Yep.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 2 of 3.
Okay.
And so so the other piece of this is to get the topographical done for, and any other work that needs to be done for the new piece of land. And you had, so we were running down 2 paths with this. One is to be conscious of our $3 million budget was to only do what we need to do, which is maybe an acre of the land and all of that. But Rob, you had also talked to Webby about doing the whole parcel, and that, and so I think it was $2,000 to $2,500 to do the acre, or $7,000 to $8,000 to do the whole thing. So Colleen and I were talking the last couple days about, well, wait a minute, do we have any money left in the work that we had done to assess these sites for, and do all that work, all the work that we've been doing? Is there still funds left? It looks like there is. And considering that one of the things we have to think about as we site this police station is to make sure that if we need to build a fire station and we need to put it back there, that we aren't putting something in the way when we put this here and site it. So it appears that there's the money, and it probably is better overall to be able to look at the overall plan and be able to say, yes, we can put this here, and this makes sense for how we're siting this for a slab on grade, and there's plenty of room back here because the wetlands sit at this corner over here, and it gives us this much space, and that would fit some facility down the road, and we can site it so that there's a roadway out here appropriately, and it's all done, and it's dealing within the scope of the prior warrant. So I think what we need, so I don't know if folks have comments on that. I felt kind of funny about doing just an acre of it because either we are going to have to do that or someone else is going to have to do that later to get that for whatever the next phase is, if it comes to that. And if nothing else, we finally have a good, proper, all the information we need with the new land that we have in order to be able to make whatever decisions we make with it down the road. And it's-
It doesn't make sense only to do a partial part of the land.
Yeah, because it seems like a certain amount of cost is to get them out here.
Yeah,
And-
you're gonna duplicate about 1,000.
So an acre I get for 2,000, or I get 5 for 7,500 to 8. A little bit of savings there. And,
How much money do we have left over?
I don't know exactly, but Colleen's chasing that down, but she thinks that we have enough in,
I think
in
it's
it to
somewhere
do.
around 19 from my
Right.
rough math.
so we have plenty, and then that means none of this comes out of,
Well, I think Dan was rolling what we had left into the kind of overall budget for this.
oh yeah?
But, I mean, given that the design fee has come down by $30,000, I'm okay with spending another 5 to get the overall picture, because it may tell us that there is, one building envelope that we could use for anything down the road, whether it's a fire station or whatever. And it's, we've got to access it by this serpentine route, and that's gonna put us here. That, I'd rather spend the money to know what we're dealing with back there for how we design this, because the biggest pushback we've gotten was for the road connection. So we better make sure that that's gonna work for whatever we do back there later on, if we do anything at all.
I think it'd be irresponsible not to do it.
I
so.
think you're
Yeah,
right.
that was my
Yeah.
concern,
Yeah.
you know, because we're only gonna look at a little piece, and then we say, oh, well, we have 4 more acres, and then it turns out we have 2 because there's wetlands, and it needs to be over
We
here.
waited on so many decisions to see if we were gonna get that, and whether a ball field goes over. I mean, I've heard so many different ideas about renovating the existing and turning one of the ball fields into a parking lot for public parking uptown and stuff. And whether that was the other ball field over there, there's a lot of ideas. And if we don't
Yeah.
have the information on the site, we won't be able to really come up with any good site plan on the whole thing for the entire design. I mean, there's a lot of good ideas out there. I mean, and we really have to get
Now
that
that we have the
incorporated into
property.
this parcel now.
Well, yeah, but one thing is, we have the appropriation to build a police station.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not, think
That-
about other
but-
things.
No,
ahead.
just hear me out. Can we ask for the additional funds from FinCom?
Well, I
And
think-
have the whole thing done for the town?
I
So
don't think
I-
we're there yet, because Colleen's still looking
I
for
think
some
we're
money
gonna
we
be
may
covered,
have.
because we
We're not
have
looking-
funds left over from that initial 125 plus the
That's what I'm-
25.
that's what I'm
to look
talking
at the
about.
whole thing, fire and police. So I think we can, without being,
And-
under the radar,
And there's
I think we
even,
can
and there's even
legitimately
some
say-
question as to whether it could be looked at from the article to purchase the land to begin with. That's a little bit more questionable, but there's a number of things that we look at. The funding was never in my mind thought of, if you spend the extra money, was to spend it from the 3 million. Because
Well,
that's not.
That's where I don't want to just deplete the 3 million, well, let's do this over here, and that'll come
No,
out
no,
of
no.
3,
See,
and
that
this'll
we're-
come out.
The
and-
2 places that I think the 2 main places that you're looking at is whether it's appropriate, given the land purchase article, whether the topographical work on that could be considered part of that. That's an open question. And the second piece is whether to use some of the funds that were not expended to do all the work we've done to date. Because that one clearly was for the full complex, and it is, to some extent, it's the tying it with the bow at the end. Because yes, we added the land, but we still don't, I mean, you can look at the USGS and it looks like it's not too hilly, but where that lines up against where there is a small bit of wetlands and all of that, and what those setbacks are, we don't know.
Yeah, because we did the schematic drawing for a fire station as part of that 150,000. So I think that the land survey for a potential fire station would fit squarely in that field.
But I
So-
think I hear what Art is saying. He's saying if we have money left over from the project that we haven't spent yet, we may have some hidden costs.
Sure.
And instead of using that money that we have left over, reserve that for any hidden costs and get the cost for the,
I think we will look to find the most appropriate and best place to spend that money. I think what we need to do tonight is to make the recommendation to the selectmen, and hopefully by Monday night,
yeah,
there will be some clearer understanding of what and how that could be expended.
yeah.
And we may decide by Monday night that, then the selectmen are gonna make the decision, so it's not really our decision, but they may decide to authorize the 2,500 to do just the acre. But hopefully, between Thursday and the day Monday, there can be some clarity put to what that is, so that we can find, I mean, who knows, maybe there's even, 1,500 left in the town building account. I
Yeah.
mean, who knows, I don't know where any of that is, that's
Yeah.
for the financial folks to figure out. And pull the money from a couple places to just get done to that point.
I mean, I'm looking at the driveway. I think the driveway, in my mind, is critical
I do too.
to get it out of over there.
Yep.
I think that's paramount, and I would want to save as much as we can.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
I'd
Yes.
rather put it towards that and get a
Exactly.
proper driveway in,
I
so
agree.
that all emergency vehicles could use it, you
Yeah,
know.
but I think that ties into making sure that we know, because I don't want to end up in 15 years, when we actually have the money to do a fire station, and it's gotta go back there because we need a bigger one, or the state says you can't do an all-call anymore, and we find out that we can't, you know, having them come through the way we've designed it isn't quite right. I'd rather, you know, it's $5,000. I mean, if it came to, you know, we were 5,000 short on a driveway, I think we can come up with that.
Yeah,
In
I think
a variety of
I think it'd be
ways.
short-sighted not to do the 5
Yeah.
acres.
Yes,
I really do.
yeah. I was not against that.
I think we would be on the position to say at this point, we don't think you're going to do much harm to yourselves or the budget by spending a little bit more money on site analysis and diligence.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more we know about the site, even if we're not going to be building, particularly in the middle of this new parcel, the more we know about the site, the more informed we're going to be when putting together the documents, which means that there's fewer assumptions in the bid documents, which means prices can be a little bit better. So, you know, I would suggest we go out and spend $50,000 on more analysis than we anticipated. But I think an extra $5,000 now, you know, it's probably going to help us. It's going to help Jeff situate this building in a sweeter place. So I think P3's coming on the side of, you know, we think it's okay if the community decides to spend the extra money here to get this whole parcel figured out. But to Art's point, absolutely. If we've got a little extra money in the geotech and we've got extra money in design fees, and yeah, most of this savings should absolutely be saved for construction. That's where most of it's going to belong.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I won't speak for everyone else, but I think based on everyone's comments, if we can do that driveway, we're doing that driveway.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes.
it's probably very, very, very high on our wish list, as long as we don't, you know, cut short something else. You know, we have to do
Yeah.
everything right, but if we can squeeze in the appropriate places, you know, he's not gonna get Carrera marble for the entryway, and we already told him that, but,
Do
you know,
Get something more than concrete.
Yeah.
polished concrete's nice. Stucco, get back on the stucco. You know, I think we will use that, because I think we certainly want to spend the money where we need to spend the money from a maintenance perspective, long-term, but we need to be frugal where we need to be frugal.
Right, and we definitely have some money, extra money. There's some fat built into these owner/town expenses on the appropriation budget. You know, we can certainly probably do better than $75,000 on furniture. Utility back charges, that is an unknown, but hopefully it's less than $50,000. You know, the geotech, $10,000. I do not expect we're going to spend $10,000 on geotech. And, you know, printing costs for bid documents for bidders to come and pick up, $7,500.
Too much.
We don't have to spend that kind of money. But, you know, we put these in there to be comfortable when we go to town meeting. But, you know, when things become more and more serious through construction documents, these costs should come in a little bit lighter than what we projected. So don't quote me on that.
And having the extra information is gonna help us with the driveway. I mean, even if we do
Sure.
try and get it
Right,
done this year.
absolutely.
If we limit ourselves to just where we're gonna build, then we don't really have the information for up front that we're gonna need. Okay, make a motion.
So do we don't have a written, well, and anything that Webby's giving anyways is an estimate, right? I mean, he the way he worded it was he believes that it would be 2,000 to 2,500.
I talked to Joe Webby today, and I said, your proposal, I questioned him on the wording.
Yeah.
And I said, I told him, what I'm going to present to the committee is a not to exceed fee of $2,500, and he said, absolutely.
Okay.
So, I'm comfortable with that, he is too. But
So-
in terms of a proposal for the entire site,
Yeah.
I don't have that. That was a
Okay.
conversation between him and Colin, I believe.
Okay.
But
So.
I can probably have that to you for you, probably by tomorrow or the day after.
So, well, why don't we make a motion, again, since we're providing the recommendation, why don't we make a motion to recommend to the selectmen to move ahead with the appropriate surveying of the whole 5-acre parcel as they see fit. because I don't want to hem us into, because if it comes back at 8,100 and we said not to exceed 8,000, then, you know, well, again, it's our recommendation, but I think,
Yep.
I think that's a fair enough recommendation to them, and I did get it on the agenda for Monday night, so that we can talk through each of these things, so that we can get things signed, and get the ball moving, on Monday night. So do I have a second?
Second.
You're thinking?
What I want for dinner,
Pretty sure P3 was supposed to bring pizza.
but,
Yeah,
At the
Why do you
end,
think we're not there?
yeah.
okay, so,
So, just a question. So,
Yep.
what type of expenses moving forward have to go before the Board of Selectmen?
I think any place where we're, I mean, I think any place we're signing a contract with, another party.
Okay.
I mean, because they're the contracting agent for the town. We don't have any, like, even if from the
We don't
historical
have the authority
commission,
to do
I don't
it.
have the authority to approve the contract.
Okay, so this committee doesn't have the authority to expend funds
No.
in the appropriation? Okay.
No. No.
Okay,
No,
okay.
we approve, I mean, well, this, for each of these things, we're looking at contract amendments.
Right.
So, I think we can approve the payments under them.
Yeah,
But the
that's for sure.
contract, but
Yeah,
all three of
that's true,
these
yeah.
are new contracts or amended
Yes.
contracts.
Yeah, that's right,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
We can approve
Okay.
the payments periodically.
Makes sense.
Okay. Okay, so, we had a motion and a second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All three are done. Rob, do you want to run away? You're welcome.
I don't have anything else for you guys, but any questions you have?
Oh, I do have one question for you. Next meeting, when do we need to get together again? I mean, we don't want to wait too long, but it seems like there's some work to be done. In other words, what do we have to talk about? Because if we need I mean, so Jeff needs the survey in order to be able to site the building.
Mhm.
And we're gonna have, I think, one meeting on that type of discussion, right? And then we move on to construction design, right? Is that
Yes.
what Dan explained to me?
Well,
So-
we can start talking about systems. You know, the HVAC isn't going to change whether the building's in one place or 15 feet away.
Uh-huh.
We could, you know, I don't know how much of it Jeff wants to talk to the chief about, or I would imagine everything from floor types to, you know, furniture should go through the committee.
Yep,
But in terms of the next meeting, you know, Jeff's not going to be wanting to talk about floor tile just yet. So, and based on the Webby proposal, it looks like he won't be able to wrap this up until the later part of this month, especially if we're going to have to do the whole thing. So,
right.
let me see. I'm looking at my calendar.
We had a tentative of the 21st.
Yeah, I mean, we could meet on the 21st, and we could even start talking about some of the more general things, like, because I don't think we have at all about, you know, if we want to talk about HVAC, which I know is exciting, and I'm really looking forward to that discussion. But you might not want to have shared that, but that's okay. No, but, I mean, it's all good stuff to talk, but, you know, even, you know, things like, general things like visions for trim, siding, roof, you know, because some of that stuff, to give Jeff some feedback ahead of time perhaps
Yep.
helps in his sort of, well, instead of him bringing 12 different ideas for what to do with the siding, if we say, well, we're kind of thinking about these couple of things, then he can focus his energies on that. You know, I don't know, I mean, I'm sure we probably can have something to talk about.
Clerk of the Works.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
continue that
yeah.
discussion.
All right, so we'll do the 21st.
Sure.
Okay,
Really should
If we
worry
have to
about
adjust
natural
it, we'll-
gas anyway.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just,
Okay. Good. So you're welcome to stay on. The only thing, the only two other things I thought we would do is we could start the conversation with Clerk of the Works a little bit, just get some additional thoughts, and then we can come back and have an additional discussion when we have Colleen here too. And then we got to do the minutes, those approved. So do you want to stick around, or you want to run away?
No, I'll stick around in case
Okay.
anyone has questions about services, and just so everyone knows, no one's going to hurt our feelings by saying that, you know, they didn't want P3 to do the clerk of the works by any means, and I know Dan shares that same feeling.
Yeah,
You know, it's just a matter of, it's whatever you guys want. We're happy to accommodate in any way.
yep.
But, yeah, I'll stick around. Any questions
Okay.
about, you know, what's typical and what's not, I'm happy to answer.
Do you, I have a question, do you have a clerk of the works that you would not recommend to us?
A particular person?
Yeah, or, yeah,
But they work for them anyway.
they all, anyone that we had would be recommended by your company, is that it?
Well, they would, if we went with P3, they would actually supply an in-house person from their
Yeah.
company to be clerk of the works.
And we don't have any
Exactly.
say over
Yep.
who it is?
Exactly.
I mean, would we have,
They should submit.
Yeah.
If we decide to go with P3, they should submit one or two resumes to us.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, absolutely. And you'll know ahead of time who we're thinking of, who we want to present to you guys. You'll get their past experience of similar project types. You know, we would never suggest a clerk of the works that's used to doing,
Hospitals.
nothing but
Yeah.
historical renovations of, of interior spaces. You know, we would want someone who's used to ground up construction of this type. So,
I guess that's what I was getting at.
Is there a potential savings for us to hire our own clerk and advertise the position?
Oh, then you have to-
potentially.
This is-
Honestly, I've never been on a project where the town had their own clerk. I've
Okay.
never done it.
So, we did one here, it was then at school.
Yes,
School,
yes,
terrible.
and got
And it
burnt.
was, I didn't have any direct experience, but I know you guys have had some, and I know like
Yeah.
Susan explained it to me too, that
Yes.
it was, we paid the guy to do nothing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which it's certainly, it's a worry for me. Because ultimately, if it's P3 who's doing it, then it's Dan's problem.
Yeah.
And I'd rather not be on the receiving end of it being Dan's problem, so I'm very happy to have it be his problem. But I'm also open to other thoughts. I'm not sure how, but then wouldn't we would have to ask P3 to help us in the choosing of it, because I'm
Right.
not sure I would be able to, you probably the
Right.
best out of any of us to offer thoughts on that.
The only reason that I would think the municipality would want to put someone forward is if they have somebody, a resident, with the qualifications. I don't agree that we should go outside of P3 and try to find somebody on our own. We don't have the qualifications
No,
to
I
check that
agree.
out.
I'd rather dump it on P3 too.
yeah,
Yeah.
my concern would be if we hired somebody as the town,
Yeah,
the chain of command comes back through us. We're only meeting once, twice a week.
Yeah.
That can
Yeah.
pose all sorts of delays in time, and
That's
which
a good
translate to
point.
money.
and again, it's not a complicated building.
Yeah.
No.
It just isn't. I mean, we're not talking about a hospital.
Right.
My feeling is that the fewer people we have to deal with,
Yeah.
the better.
Right.
Yeah,
And especially, being P3 is the OPM through the whole process, I feel comfortable putting it under that umbrella.
Yeah.
Mostly for the part that I was just mentioning about who's overseeing who. Because in the past jobs that I've dealt with, if a guy's not getting paid by somebody that's, quote unquote superior to them, then, they can give them whatever time of day they want.
Yeah.
It's not,
It's not ideal for future working relationships, but sometimes people don't seem to care.
yeah, no, the hand that feeds you is, a big driver, so I would prefer
And,
that to
and,
be
and
P3.
whoever you talk to who could be a potential candidate to be a clerk, you really want to get a clear understanding of what their personal definition of clerk of the works is, because there seem to be a lot of variations. And just from, we've had to hire a couple of new clerks this summer just to work on some renovation projects that we have for some schools. And everyone we talk to, we always make a point to ask, what just clear out, like, what is your day-to-day role? And some of them have different answers. So most of them say
Interesting.
the definition of clerk of the works is someone who observes and reports. But we always try and find out exactly what that means to them. Some clerks like to show up on the job every day and just kind of stand back and exactly what they say, just observe what's going on, report, submit. we're a little bit more hands-on. We don't tell the contractor what to do, but, you know, we'll jump right in the hole with them and dig in a little bit deeper and have more conversations. You know, we're just more aggressive, especially some of the full-time clerks that we have. We take it as more of a project management approach, less than just like a observation role. So whoever you talk to, it's good to get their understanding of their approach, how they would deal with an issue if they found one in the site. I've met clerks before that said that, you know, they noticed a roofer was ripping up a roof that needed to be replaced, and they ripped up half the roof in one day, and they knew that they weren't supposed to, but didn't bother to tell them, hey, per the spec, you're only supposed to take out 10% of the roof in one day. They just documented it without, you know, stopping the problem. So those are the little differences that I think are interesting.
Compliance
who's
with the
normally-
plans and specifications.
Who's normally responsible for taking photos, you know,
Yeah.
during construction? Is that the clerk or?
Well,
Yep. Oh, go ahead. Someone else was answering.
Well, Context has, I think you include the final photos, don't you? Don't they?
Which photos?
The final construction photos?
P3.
How about during?
Is that P3
At
that?
the end of P3.
I thought it was,
Yeah.
that's probably
When context comes out, they'll take their own photographs once a week. But whoever your clerk is, whether it's someone else or P3, they'll take, you know, depending on where they are in the construction, could take 10 to 100 pictures a day, and those all get filed daily in a folder, digitally. So, and you'll get all that at the end of the job, along with all the warranties and the O&Ms from the contractor. The photos will most likely, or in the majority of the photos, will come.
that's something that you could deal with on a separate contract basis as well. You can hire an outside photographer to do progress prints for you. And you tell them
P3 's gonna
what
do
you
it.
want, so many per week or whatever, you know?
Good.
So,
Yep.
But something that's small.
Might be easier to do.
I mean-
You know, it might be easier for P3 to curate the 2 weeks worth of photos and pick out the significant ones
Yeah.
and then disseminate
Yeah,
them to
'cause
the
that'd be-
committee electronically.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that's right, they provide the final, P3.
As long as whoever's taking the photographs has an understanding of construction and knows what they should be doing. Yeah.
Nice photograph with the sun coming up
Yeah.
over the thing and the
You
bird
don't want a
flying
wedding- You
through.
don't want a wedding photographer out there.
The sky looks great.
I had
Where's the
one
building?
job- At one job, I got a half a dozen photos of a female laborer pouring concrete. Only because of the outfit she was wearing.
Yeah, not what we need. Okay. All right, so we'll put that on the agenda for next time. I think that's important to keep the discussion going on that. And we'll kind of figure out what else, other things we can talk to over the next week or two and have that meeting. That'll be a good check-in anyways. Shall we take care of the minutes?
Yeah, and if you guys want to boot me off the call and have your own independent discussion on the clerk of the works, that's completely fine too.
Yeah, we gotta talk about you.
Yeah. Well, I think we're done, maybe whether we do or don't, I don't know, but thank you for your input. We're gonna do our minutes, and I don't know that there's too much else to do, but thanks for calling in. It was helpful, and we'll move this stuff forward to the selectmen on Monday.
Sounds good. I'll be in touch with a new proposal from Webby this week.
Great, thank you so much.
All right, thanks everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Take care.
You too.
Okay. Better than I thought it was going to.
Sure, God, I'm sick of him. He's not listening, is he?
No.
I'm just kidding.
So, do we have any additional comments on that, or we just?
I think, using the clerk is probably in the long run a good idea on our part.
Somebody asked a question, though, is it more costly to use P3? I don't think we had an answer, did we?
I think, so based on what Rob was saying last week about how that 74,000 breaks down in terms of what a billing rate is and what the actual clerk would get paid, they're not the same. So it seems like there's an overhead that P3 is, a markup, so to speak, that P3 is making on top of the clerk to, oversee all that.
It's another profit center.
Yeah, whether
Yeah.
whether it makes, whether the dollar figure is enough to warrant the town going out on its own is a part of the discussion, but.
Well, and my thought would be, $74,000, $90 an hour billing rate. That's a lot of money for a
Yeah.
single-story ranch on a slab.
It is, it's not a
just-
small building.
It's a simple building, so, to me, I think at least if we went with P3, we should negotiate that number way down.
Definitely, negotiate the number and negotiate the actual involvement. You know, you may not want somebody here 40 hours a week.
Yeah, that's, I
You
think
know,
Rob was
maybe
talking
Monday,
about that a
Wednesday,
little
Friday,
bit.
or
We'll
whatever.
start
that
doing
you
tree
should be able to play
clearing
with
and
that.
surveying, you know, you might
Yeah.
select the time that you need to be here.
Yeah, I mean, if they're pouring concrete, yeah, you want the guy out there, you know.
We can probably save that $7,000 right tonight before we even adjourn, to get the extra site work done.
So, can you choose the time that you want clerk of the works?
Well, they even said there's 3 days or 24 hours per week is
saw
what
that.
they're recommending.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that.
So how many months, 9 months, did I say?
So,
It's about 40 weeks.
yeah, I mean, I'm certainly, I'm a little bit leery as to how much we actually save if we do it ourselves and trying to get someone out there, and then you do have chain of command and stuff like that, but if we can certainly talk to Dan about costs and understanding that. Plus, if, you know, they're going to, if they're going to, commit to us that the clerk is gonna be a pretty active clerk, then there's some money in that too.
There is,
Because there's
exactly.
they're clear on what their expectations are for them, and, they know who these folks are. Whereas we can go and get someone who looks great on paper, and we never know.
Yeah,
And that we also have to put out for bid?
But that you would,
yeah.
yeah.
And having
That
the right
right?
people
That's
is
another
worth,
expense too.
having the right people is worth the money. I mean, it just in P3, just saved us $30,000.
Right.
You know, that's more than their, that's 150% of their initial $19,000 fee to get us to this point. I mean,
If we do 40 weeks times 24 hours,
times $90, it's at 86 grand.
yeah.
So he's under that.
he's
Yeah, well, there's
Well,
some tweaks in that too, because they ramp up, and then,
Yeah.
they may be here more in the peak building period, they
Yeah.
may be here 40 hours a week, and then they tail down when, you're doing some,
Painting and,
Yeah.
yeah, all that stuff, yeah.
and you'll be going there with your pencil marks anyway, so. Yeah, so we'll definitely have this on for further discussion, I think it's good to do that.
Yeah,
And good to kind of get this out of, I'd rather get this out of the way and make our decision, than wait, 2 months to do it. Because if we decide we're gonna, we're gonna do something separate, then we need to get that moving,
Mhm.
so.
and that's not eat up a lot of time.
Yeah. I don't see a reason why we should go out.
No, I would like, as Art pointed out, I would like to discuss the fee and the structure.
In more detail and-
Yeah.
And see if that number can
Be
sink a
lowered,
little bit.
yeah.
If we were to do it ourselves, we would have to advertise.
Oh, I think you have to, I mean,
Yeah,
if
you're right,
if you
Tom.
think it's gonna be somewhere near that, I think you have to bid, sealed bid.
You Get into,
I forget the number, but it's not, it didn't go up that much that it's outside, because it used to be 25 and over, you had to sealed bid, but it's up, but it's not up at 70 or 60, so.
See if we can negotiate it down,
yeah, I think that's where we all,
Okay.
save some engineering money.
All right. Anything else on that?
on that.
No,
Minutes, we had two.
Yep, we had the May 6th coffee hour, which going to be amending to add Perry to the members present.
Okay.
Other than that, did anybody else have any thoughts on that one?
Okay. We have a motion on those minutes.
Motion to accept the minutes on the, which days?
I'll second.
That's for the, accept them as amended for the coffee
May
hour.
6th.
May 6th. Need a second, all in favor?
Uh,
Aye. And then we have the,
May 25th minutes, there's no
24.
current amendment, sorry, 24th, yeah.
I had no comments. Take a motion to approve those as
So
submitted.
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then I would, if we have nothing else, I'd entertain one more motion.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
And a second?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks very much. Have a good evening.
When are we coming back? 2 weeks?
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah, 21st.